Rufus Pollock, just to get things straightened and not too incorrect and have them on the record. Could you, in a few sentences, describe the Open Knowledge Foundation and your work there?
Sure. So I'm Dr. Rufus Pollock. I'm co-founder and director of the Open Knowledge Foundation, which was started in 2004. It's a not-for-profit, community-based organisation that builds tools and communities around an open knowledge commons. So that, we try and open up material, open up data, open up content, but also build the tools and communities to make them useful. Open data isn't just an end in itself, open content isn't an end in itself. We need to do useful things with it. We need to improve governance, we need to do better research, have a better culture, better economy. So that's what we do. We build tools and communities around an open knowledge commons.
How would you define open government data?
Well, so we actually help write something called the Open Definition, opendefinition.org, which precisely says what we mean by open data. In a sentence, it's material that anyone is free to use, reuse and redistribute. So crucially, it's not just having access, it's not just being on a website, it's me being able to utilize it myself, give it to other people, having it in a machine-readable form, so not a PDF, and anyone. So no restrictions on commercial use, no restrictions on only Swiss citizens or only English citizens or only people in the US. Anybody means anybody. And obviously open government data is then just open data from the government. So statistics, geographic data, legal and juridical data or information or content that is open.
Where do you see the political, societal importance of opening up government data? Well,
I think there's kind of three kind of key things. So I think one part of it is about innovation in the economy. Opening up data allows innovative firms and companies and also NGOs like ourselves, but individual citizens to build useful services, applications and tools for others to use. What's the best way to get to work? Where can I ride my bicycle? How many people, what's the average price for a house in my town? What's the best school in the district where I live? Those kind of things. But also what do we see today? Massive companies, very successful companies, which have been built around information processing. Google, other search engines are about helping, using data to help you find things, to help you do something, travel somewhere, whatever. I think that's one. Is so innovation in the economy. The other, I think, is around, particularly for open government data, is around governance. So I think, going back to the example, government has a lot of data that's key to our everyday lives in terms of transport, but also in governance. We need to know who our representatives are, what the law is, how our representatives voted. So I think there's a kind of big aspect of governance. And we, for example, run a project called Open Spending and Where Does My Money Go, which is about saying, hey, there's this, one of the biggest things you do is pay tax. It's the biggest thing that the government does. Where does your money go when you pay taxes? So that's again a kind of governance question. And I think it's not just about kind of accountability or transparency in the sense that someone might be doing something wrong, but also about it being our state. I know something Switzerland is actually well known for is kind of this kind of grassroots democracy of the cantons and this autonomy. And I think it's part of that often, as the state has got more complex, we've actually got more alienated from it. And so it's a chance by opening up data to create a world in which we really engage with what our state and our country is doing. So I think that's a big thing. And so innovation economy, transparency and governance. And the other thing, I guess, is just knowing things. I think it's fantastic to have access to information and to create a kind of a society that's read-write. It's not just about us passively receiving things from government, but us being able to interact with it, comment on it, annotate it, analyse it, visualise it, and correct it. There's a lot of errors in government data.
What do you know about Switzerland and open government data?
Well, so I know that there's been interest. We had contact with the organisers of this event. My understanding is that we're at the kind of beginning of the process here in Switzerland, and so that there's interest, but we don't, as I understand it, have a lot of data yet available in the same way as some other countries. But I know that talking prior to this event, I know that there's a lot of interest in the fact that we're here at the Bundesarchiv means positive signs.
What do you think will be better, maybe even in Switzerland, when there's more government data openly available?
Well, I think some things just like travel. I mean, I don't know what Switzerland's like. I mean, I looked on the train site, but I know that in other countries like the UK, one of the things that I find always so frustrating is just the quality of travel websites and the integration of them. You know, it's very difficult often to work out the different ways you can travel places, and the interfaces that we have are often quite poor, and there's only one of them. So that's just one very simple thing where I think travel, so we all do, that kind of application, that kind of availability of information will get better. I don't know, I think there will be companies that are going to be built using this data that or are going to integrate it into what they're already doing and make it better. So I think we're going to see, innovation, we're going to see new businesses built. And the biggest thing you can say is that I don't know. I mean, the point about opening up data is that I don't know the best thing that's going to happen. I mean, we have a phrase we coined, which is that, the best thing to do with your data will be thought of by someone else. That's why it's important to be open. I mean, of course, the converse of that is you'll think of the best thing to do with somebody else's data. But that crucial point that in a way, it's the things that we can't anticipate that are the most important about this. It's the new apps, the new businesses that we can't think of right now that are going to be the most interesting.
Now let's suppose I would wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and ask you, what's your favorite application of open data? What would you answer?
Well, there's some really great ones, but I think my favourite at the moment on open data is a bit biased, is open spending, because I spend so much time with it. I love, I'm really fascinated by finance and by government spending and budgets and so on. And so open spending is one of the things and the visualization we built around it is something that kind of endlessly occupies me. But it's quite biased because it's something that the Open Knowledge Foundation has built. I've seen some great, just really simple apps around, where is your nearest lavatory? Where's your toilet? I mean, that kind of thing. They seem kind of like niche. I think other stuff, obviously, OpenStreetMap and the work that's been done around geodata has just been incredible. And in a way, it's a bit odd in that I sometimes think the most important data sets are a bit like that, in that we don't tend to see a single app built with geodata. You don't kind of go, oh, here's a geodata app. It's more that you see integrated into huge numbers of apps that they couldn't be built without access to that. So I think that's also a key point to make, which is I don't think we're going to see kind of single purpose apps out of open data. We are, but they're going to use a whole range of data sets. And that's one of the things I think is limiting what we can build at the moment, is that while data has started to be open up, there's often not, you want all of the transport data. You want transport data and geodata. You want statistical data and geodata. You need often a combination of data sets before you really get something amazing. So I think that on pure open data. So I think that's something that we're waiting for. But yeah, the open spending work we've done, I really like.
Where do you see the importance of the media coming down to concerning opening up the data?
Yeah, I think there's a really big point also about the media, is they're a key, possible users of data, data-driven journalism. While there's a lot of talk of the death of sometimes of journalism, or whatever. Truth is, they're often the best funded people with the most amount of time, the most amount of experience, often contextual knowledge. I think it's an incredible opportunity for them to utilize this data. I think they're also probably important in highlighting the issues around open data. I think open data is such a great issue because it's such an easy one, in the sense of, in general, certainly for government data, the amount of money they make from selling data is either zero or non-existent. And it's just a question, and there's so many people who can use it, from citizens to business. It's just such an obvious thing to open up, but just making, at the same time, you need government or anyone to actually just pay attention to that obvious fact. There are lots of maybe obvious things we do, but we don't do them. So I think the media are both key in maybe highlighting how this is an interesting issue in this broad set of ways, from transparency to business development, innovation, but also in key users of the data. For open spending and where does my money go, we're really seeing they're going right. To make this really be interesting and have an impact and reach a wide audience, we need to connect with journalists. We need to connect with the mainstream there, and that's just a huge opportunity. I also think for journalism to say, hey, we've had issues. It's got in some ways more difficult to do the kind of long-term investigative journalism work. Is there a way to team up with the kind of data wrangler community, the community of data developers, or whatever we want to call them, and kind of combine forces to do interesting stuff around data? Okay.
Well, do you know the guys from OVNI in Paris?
From
OWNI, .fr they call themselves.
No, I don't.
because they're really focusing on data journalism, at least partly, and they have the policy to always connect a journalist with a developer and the graphic artists. So I think that's really the good idea.
In like Guardian and the New York Times, you're really starting to see that. I mean, I know in the Guardian now they're pairing up journalists with developers and a visual team, and absolutely, I think that's really a really exciting thing. And in fact, we've been very fortunate and just been a winner of the Night News Challenge with a kind of project related to open spending called Spending Stories, where one of our real aims is to kind of team up in that way. So if you know any journalists out there who are interested in this stuff, get in touch with us, because we're looking to partner with them and work on this. And I think it's just in the next few years it's going to be very exciting. My colleague Jonathan Gray does the most amount of stuff on the data journalism thing, and it sounds like we should connect with these people in Paris. But I also know the European Centre, European Journalism, I think it's Centre, we're kind of working with, and Design we've been talking with. So it's a really interesting time to see what we can do in the media to kind of transform, I think, what we can do there.